I was glitching quite a bit with it. Now I'm going to show you the back. Just as a reminder, the back is none of our business, but I'm going to show you anyways. Hello, sweet friends. It's Sarah at Crochet.With.Coffee, and thank you so much for joining me for another Monday chat. And today I have a few projects I'm going to share with you, some progress, some new projects, and just some updates. So first off, I want to share that I found a square that was missing during our yarn review, and this was the last square of the Pound of Love. And this is what it was looking like, and the tails ended up tangling. So that was on the third wash and dry. So I found that when I used a towel the other day and it fell out of it. So I just thought I'd share that with you. But that one was from our wash and dry review for Value Acrylic Yarn. So if you're interested in seeing that, I did 17 different yarns and we reviewed them, washed and dried them, looked at the differences. If you missed that and you're interested in looking at some different options for Value Acrylic, I do have that there. I'll link it in the description as well. But I just wanted to share that real quick before we kept going. And the other thing, so a couple things that I wanted to mention before I get into the projects. So I had some questions the other day about the ball of yarn that I have. I put long scraps into this jar or vase or whatever when they are long enough to be like a foot or so long, but they're not long enough to really add to our scraps for our hexagon cardigan. So what I do is I do a magic knot and I tie them all together and I wrap them up into a ball. And when the ball is large enough, then I think of a project that I want to put this in as like an accent color. And I was going to show you the last item that I made with this, but it's packed up in my winter clothes. But it is a scarf. So what I did was, this one I did knitted, but I did a triangle scarf shawl type thing. It's more of a scarf than a shawl, but it started off as a point and goes up to a larger, the larger side. So it's like an oblong, is that what you call it? Triangle scarf. So you start from the point and then you slowly increase until you have the long side and then you wrap it around that way. But I did several inches of a yellow color, or like I think it's the Karen 1 pound sunflower, because I have a lot of that and I really like that color. But I did about, a few inches of that, and then I did a couple rows of this to add into it, where it's just like a huge variety of crazy colors and everything is strange. I do have some fuzzy yarn in there this time from one of my projects. So I just put that in there, and then I just use this as an accent, or like, just an extra little pop of color in a solid colored project, just to add a little bit of interesting stuff in there. So that is what I do for that. I know some of you were asking what I do with that. And then the other thing is, last week I was talking about the dot hooks and how I really like them, and that there was a hole on the handle. And I was like, maybe it's for a lanyard so you don't lose it, and this and that. You guys were letting me know that that is actually for stitch markers. So you just pop a few stitch markers in there and you have that on the end of your hook when you need them. So I thought that was so cute. But I'm sure you could use it for multiple things. If you wanted to put a lanyard on it, you could, or a little keychain or anything. But from what I've heard you guys say, you use it for stitch markers. So that is a really cool use for that little thing. Let's start on the ones that I have mentioned before so that I can, just walk you through what I have going on. So when I did my thrift flip video, where I took thrifted blankets and I turned them into wearables, I had a blanket that I totally took apart, and then I made granny squares with it, and then I connected it with fuzzy yarn to make the seam. So it was really nice and fuzzy in between the granny squares, and it gave it a really cool look. So I really have a desire to make a long version of that and to make it look kind of like mossy and whimsical type of look. So I really wanted to do that again. I found yarn on Temu. Now I know Temu is, it could be not everybody's favorite and all that, but you could use this. You could use any yarn that you'd like. This one has a variety of textures in it, which is why I wanted to get it. It has textures, variety of textures and colors. So I've got a stack of squares here. I have 36 squares and I need 51 for the cardigan that I want. So I am using the same structure that I did for my all-in-one granny square cardigan. And I have that linked in the description for you if you want to check that out. But it's a very long version of a cardigan made with granny squares. And they are made with, I think these granny squares are about 5.5 inches wide, 5.5 to 6 inches. And there are just a variety of colors. So you can see that there's more of a crisp textured look and then more of a fuzzy textured look. And it just goes throughout and it changes. And all the squares are totally different. And this one is, I'm going to be putting it together with some fuzzy like eyelash yarn eventually after they are all put together, but I wanted to show you my progress on that. So I've got 36 squares, so I need a few more to get to my 51, and then I will be doing a tutorial and instructions on how I'm assembling it and everything, but it really is the same structure as the all-in-one granny square cardigan that I already have a tutorial for. But we're just going to switch it up a little bit when we do the seams for attaching them with that fuzzy yarn. So we've got that project going. And that one is slow because if I'm in between projects or I just want to mindlessly make some granny squares, that's what I hop on. I've got that one going. And now I have an update on my knitted socks. So these are the socks that I'm making for my husband. So it is the hand-dyed wool yarn. So I got one sock completed and I've got all my markers on there for all my rows. So I put a stitch marker every 10 rows. So I've got that, and then I've got the cuff, and we've got the nice heel, and I'm using the vanilla sock pattern and tutorial from the Crazy Sock Lady. So that is what I have going on with that one. And then I started the second sock, and I have this so far. So I've only got like 15 rows on the actual leg of the sock, but I've got my cuff done and then about 15 rows. This one is slow. Like I said last time, I was really trying to do like 10 rows a day, but some days I just don't even pick it up. But then some days I knit like 20 or 30 rows. So it really depends on my mood and if I want to do something tiny like that. You really have to be in the mood for it. So now I have another item. That I am working on that is going to be a tutorial. So I'm at the point where I have mapped everything out. I think I got all my stitches and everything done, and I'll show you what it is. And I'll explain what it is. So I'm going to do, I believe it's going to be kind of like a how-to video or a tutorial. I'm not entirely sure how I want to do this, but the reason I'm making this is because I bought a pattern for a cardigan. Now the picture looked AI, but every once in a while, some people use AI pictures to display their makes, and sometimes you can't tell. Now this one I was pretty sure was an AI pattern, but I purchased it just to see, and I got the pattern and I looked it through. It was very nicely created, but there were no real instructions for how to make it. It was pretty basic, saying like, you stitch the sleeve and you make it about this many inches, and then you attach it to this, and you're going to use these colors, but the colors didn't always match up with the pictures and things like that. But there were no chains, like chain count or stitch count or row count or anything like that. So I automatically knew it was AI. I contacted the seller, said I wanted a refund, and that I also was going to be reporting them. And then I didn't hear anything else from them. They disappeared. Their pattern disappeared. Their shop disappeared. So at least that's good that they just disappeared on their own. I didn't even get a chance to report them because they were gone before I got a chance to do that. So I still fell in love with this pattern or this design. So I want to make it and I want to recreate it. Now, because it was a picture that they were selling a pattern, even though it was AI, I feel like that is a little bit of a gray zone on making an actual tutorial. So the reason why I'm going back and forth on if I want to do a tutorial or not is because of that reason. So I'm thinking it's probably going to be more like a step by step how I made it, so that I give instructions on how to do it. I just feel like that is probably the better way to go about it. So I'm going to show you how I recreated an AI picture that I found online that was not actually a pattern. So I know you guys have heard some, if you've watched at all any of the past episodes, I've kind of been on a crochet mushroom kick. And when I saw this, I was like, I have to make it. It's amazing. It's so cute. I love it. And I will put a picture up on the screen. This is the cardigan that I saw that I loved. And I can really see like the different stitches and can really break them down to see what exactly made up those different textures. So I'm really kind of just looking at it and then crocheting to try and match the dimensions and the stitch that it looks like it is, and then, you know, build it from there. So I want to show you the pieces that I have going right now so that you can see what it's looking like. I'll tell you a little bit more about my plans for it. So this first section is the front panel. I'm going to see if I can keep the picture up here so that you can watch what it is or see what I'm trying to compare this to. And, you know, if I do a how-to on this, I will do similar to that where I show you this and then tell you how I'm building the different parts of it. But this is the front panel. So it is going to sit on your shoulder here. And let me see if I have the right side out. Yeah. Sit on your shoulder here. And then it goes down. I have a pocket that's going to attach about here. And this is going to be like mid thigh. It's going to come down like mid thigh. So it's going to be a very long cardigan. I'm using a really loose stitch. So I think right now I'm using an 8 or 9 millimeters so that the stitches are very airy and loose, like how the picture seems to be. And then I'm doing like a lemon peel in the round here. So like a lemon peel square, and that is adding that texture. So that is what the front panel is looking like. I'm also, right now, a lot of it is lemon peel and double crochet. And that is how it's looking right now. Now I started off with, I'll show you the sleeve in just a second, but I started off doing just a regular granny square up here. But I didn't like that it didn't follow the texture like in the picture. So I thought that this one made it look a little bit closer to the picture. So I'm just trying to like brainstorm and see what exactly works the best. But we have got that one. And now the sleeve. So I've got the sleeve and worked this down, and I'm really excited to start putting this together because I think it will be like a really cool sweater. But you've got the sleeve here, and then the bottom part, like the green part, is a little bit more textured. So what I did was a lemon peel stitch, but I did triples instead of doubles. So it's a little bit more textured as you get into the green. And then I'll end up doing like a little, gathering it on the sleeve to bring that in for the cuff. And then I'll do some trim and all kinds of things like that. So very excited about this. I am at the point where I think I'm just about ready to do a tutorial, start filming that. And then, we'll see how that goes, or not the tutorial, really the more of a how-to. So I'll just share like what stitches I'm using, how to do the stitches, and then how many rows I'm doing, and then just saying, the dimensions of how I made it, how I did it, things like that. So that's the plan. So let me know what you think about that. But I just loved the cardigan and I really wanted to make it, and the fact that the pattern that I purchased was just totally fake, which I kind of knew would be, but I just, on the off chance, I wanted to make sure I did the right thing and purchased it if I was going to make it. So there we go. So I've shared with you guys for several different episodes how frustrated I have been with this wolf cardigan, and I am so excited to make this and have it and wear it and all that stuff. Not make it, but to have it and wear it. And I am so excited to show you my progress because I think I figured out what I was doing wrong, or, I at least practiced enough to figure out to keep going. But I do want to share some resources too. After I show you what it's looking like now, I'll share some resources on videos that I found to be very helpful in this process. So I'm so excited. I have this much done of the back of the fox cardigan, the Mary Maxim cardigan, the one that has been, traveling around, that has been very popular lately. And I may even do this in a crochet version. I just didn't want the elongatedness of the stitch difference between a knit stitch and a single crochet. So that is the reason why I haven't crocheted it yet. And I'll probably make a crochet version as well, but I really wanted to try the knit. So I have done, the pattern calls for a 5-weight yarn, and I only had 4-weight, and I wasn't going down in needle size because I don't want to do more stitches if I don't have to. And I am really liking the way that it's looking. So I double stranded the loops and threads. Is it Soft Classic? Yeah, the Soft Classic yarn from Loops and Threads, and I'm making some pretty good progress on this. I like that double stranding it is making it kind of chunky, or it is making it chunky, and I am just really enjoying the process of all of this. I think it's going really well. I like the way that it's looking. I just got to the face of this fox, and the foot, this foot that's over here, I just got to that one over here, and then the second face will be over on this side. So it is ending up exactly how I want it. Now I'm going to show you the back, and just as a reminder, the back is none of our business, but I'm going to show you anyways because I think you should see it, even though it's terrible. But we're just going to enjoy the chaos just because. So this is the back. Now some of them are looking pretty nice and tidy, and I really do like how it's looking on a lot of these spots. Now, when I was doing the pause, I was really using the same technique, but because the yarn was being carried over, like the main color yarn was getting carried over the paw print, it ended up being really bulky, and it seemed to, like, even though I was trying to keep it loose, it seemed to really cinch it in and not have the amount of stretch on it that I thought it should. See if I can show you this. Like, the paws just seemed to be very tight, even though I was trying my best to make sure it had enough. Now that one's not bad. Had enough space to stretch with the yarn being carried in the back. And it was getting really bulky and just seemed kind of bulgy. And I really was not a fan of it, and I was just like, "I'm gonna have to rip it out again." But I said to myself, "I'm gonna keep going and just see how it works up with the rest of the color work." So I'm really thrilled at how it's coming together. And, I have a couple, like, crisscrossy areas. They don't look the nicest, like up here. It doesn't look the nicest, but again, like I said, it's none of our business what's on the inside. And as long as it is continuing to get better, that's all I can ask of myself. So I am really happy with how it's turning out because the front is looking really good. There's some good stretch in here, and I don't see that it is being restricted in any way. There's no holes between the stitches, and I'm thrilled at that. So I am super excited at how this is turning out, and I cannot wait to continue working on it. I did have to take a little bit of a break today because I had some pain in my arm just because of holding the needles. I was doing a lot of this, like the last 2 days, I was mainly working on this. And then I also had another knit project that I was testing out just to see how I liked it. And it was just giving my hand some pain. So I need to take a break from this for a couple days because it is a little bit strenuous on my hand and my arm. So that's a bummer, but I'm really excited to continue working on this. But I'm also not rushing it because I really want the color work to be done well, and I don't want to push myself. But I'm just like, it's one of those things. Color work gets me so excited because I can't wait for the next row because every row is different. Even though it's the same simple stitch, the color work is always different. And I find that so fun to do. There are 3 different videos that I watched for knit intarsia color work, and I found them to be the most helpful, and I did kind of like a mixture of all of them together. Roxanne Richardson, she is really good at giving some really slow, detailed information on how to do the color changes and the different tips that she has. I really have enjoyed the instructions from that video. I'm going to link these in the description if you would like to check them out. So Roxanne was one that I found very helpful. The next one was Two of Wands Knits, I believe is what it was called. And that one I found very helpful too, just the instructions on how to twist the yarn around, like what way to direct the yarn when switching your project to make sure that they are locking together and there's no holes between your colors. And if you have done crochet color work, it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple, and you just work right into the next stitch, and there's nothing other than changing the color. With this one, you're changing color and you have to loop your thread the correct way or you're going to get spaces between your project. It's going to pull funny. You need to make sure that when you're carrying your yarn over, it's not too tight. It is a lot of techniques that you have to incorporate to make sure you're doing that. Going from a crochet color work to knit color work was boggling my brain, and I was a little bit I I I was glitching quite a bit with it. I could not get it to work, but watching these tutorials has really helped. Now, another one is, it's either Izzy or Issy Knits, and she does something that I found very helpful and I have started to use. So if you have done color work before with crochet or knitting, there's typically bobbins that you use. So it's kind of like either you make little balls and you work off of each individual ball for each group of colors, so that that orange is one ball, you've got your gray or black for one ball, and you just add a new piece for each little section, so you're not carrying your yarn all the way through your project. So you have an isolated color for that section. So a bobbin is something where either it's a little ball of its own, or you can use these little plastic pieces that are yarn bobbins, and you're just wrapping your yarn around that, and there's like typically a little spot that you can lock your yarn onto so it doesn't unwind. But some of them look like little claws where you just wrap your yarn through and it holds on to that so that it doesn't like unwind. And then it all stays nice and tidy. Izzy or Issy, I'm not sure I'm saying, I don't know what way you say her name, but what she said is she just lets her yarn just lay there in a pile, and she just pulls from that pile and it doesn't get tangled as you're working. And then every once in a while you can pull the one color all the way through just to secure the fact that it's not going to get in a huge bundle and tangle. But I have found that technique to work the best. She's really against using bobbins. So I really love what she shares on that. And for me, it has worked the best because I don't need to worry about the bobbins tangling. And then I just pull the separate yarn pieces apart every once in a while just to keep it loose and not tangle into a knot. So it seems super chaotic, but that is the way that has worked the best for me. So I will put that link in the description if you want to check out her instructions on that. But those are the three that I have gone back to several times to rewatch just to see if it could help me. And I feel like implementing their tricks has really helped get this to work better. Now, the paw prints with carrying over the yarn, I think is just going to be a challenge regardless of what technique I use. But for the actual fox, I was thrilled to know that it actually worked well and that everything is flowing smoothly. And I can't wait to work to the next section. So I just need my hand to heal up so that I can continue working on that and we can keep getting that cardigan finished a little bit at a time. So I think that is it for today, but before we go, I want to give a shout out for our newest coffee buddy, and that is Viola. Thank you so much for becoming a coffee buddy. Viola has been pretty active in our lives, and it has been so nice to see her over there. So Viola, thank you so much for becoming a coffee buddy. Now, as always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you find joy in the little things.